I don't think that racism will ever change because I believe that what is in a person's heart is in their heart, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe that legislation changes that. Sometimes it gives us better coping mechanisms, but it doesn't change what you feel. Some things are blatant, some things are more suppressed, but at the end of the day, the end result is something is always said or done that injures the other party, and usually the minority party. Well, I would have to say because it was the only culture that I knew, I can't really say that it was odd. All of the children in the neighborhood were predominantly Jewish, and I think the thing that I missed out on was the social interaction because, of course, we didn't go to each other's houses. We didn't have the sleepovers. We didn't have the typical events that I would have had if I had had other minority children. But other than that, I really didn't have a problem. The neighborhood was very safe. I can't even say that the people were unkind to me because that wasn't the truth either. And on many of the holidays, when they would give out matzahs and stuff at the supermarket, my mother would come home with 2 or 3 boxes of matzah, and I learned to eat them as a young child because that's what we knew. It was not a bad experience at all. I had an experience in the workplace, and as I said, it was not a good one. It was with my supervisor, and it was a racial slur, and as a result, it escalated. I said something to her, she said something to me, and it was written up for a time. I thought that I was going to be suspended, but I wasn't. But the relationship with the supervisor was never the same. She was very cautious in dealing with me, and I, in turn, was cautious with her because I didn't know where the situation would ultimately go. It was not a good situation, but I think it was a learning experience for both of us.
The reality was that we still had inferior equipment in terms of what was given to child schools. We had separate elementary schools, which went to, at that time, to the 7th grade. We had high schools that started at 8th grade and went to 12th grade. We had, by the time that I graduated high school in '65, we had 3 local schools, 3 local high schools, Lincoln, Bryson, and Sterling High School, and I attended Sterling. So the schools, while separate and not really having the same amounts of funding, we, especially at Sterling, I considered it an experiment in education. We had in our schools, we had students who came out of high school prepared to enter the workforce. And when I say that, I mean we had a full automotive shop. We had a full carpentry shop. We had a full masonry shop. We had a full cosmetology shop. We had what was called distributive education, which included typing skills, business skills also. Yeah, and we were able to produce productive citizens out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
The elementary schools were staffed, and the black communities were staffed by African Americans. The materials and they were educated, and they were well educated, and there was a tremendous amount of care and concern that the teachers had for the students.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, for example, and I don't know that you find it so much today, but the teachers knew the members of the community, they knew the students, they knew their parents. And if we started cutting classes or we started acting out, then they went to the parents, and they had conversations with parents, and it was adjusted. Our attitudes were adjusted, our behaviors were adjusted, and our performance was adjusted. So it was good in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
We had there was racism. It was overt. And there were some incidences that we had where black people were, especially with young kids, where there were attacks. Usually white kids on black kids, but there were a lot of retaliations with black kids who went after the white kids who did the attacking. That was pursued pretty diligently by the police.
And I often wonder, for a long time, I was very angry. There was pages torn out. And I was, for a long time, I was very wondering what was on those pages. What was on those pages? And and yet you had my parents, while they were little, they had to buy them for some reason. While they were for those space books of some pages, we never knew what was on there. Black history was against the law to be in school. I learned a lot about my history from one teacher that I had. They smuggled books in, and she would students that she could trust, and I happened to be one of them. And she would tell about, we need to know our history. And I found that I found more books when I was in New York on blacks. I was interested in. I just wanted to know. Then I found when I was here, because when I did my dissertation, it was on. Right, I turned around and went back there, and that's when I had it out with the bank. And then I met with the president, and he said, "Well, the one thing I don't want you to do is say it's because of prejudice." Because it's not. I said, "Yes, it was. Nothing else but that." And but anyway, they got rid of her. I felt bad she lost her job, because I figured, well, she's kind of middle aged, maybe it's a last, but she needed to know how to treat people.